Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So, although I've made quite a bit of progress putting things in cabinets and on the stove and on the walls in the rooming house kitchen, as you dolls can see, I still have quite a bit of work to do and quite a few things to put in place and set up my dollhouse kitchen and pantry. So, among this plethora of tiny treasures, I do have just about everything, including the kitchen sink, which is exactly what we're going to work on today. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, dolls, here is my little cast iron sink, and I've got it laying down on its back so you can see under the area. Now, here I have a few nuts and bolts and pieces that I feel like would look like plumbing components or plumbing parts. And I'm going to paint them with my Testors Silver, which you dolls know is my favorite. And I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something with this sippy straw. It's a straw that came out of a drink box or a juice container from one of my grandchildren. It's a perfect size for the drain for my sink. So I painted it silver, and I'm definitely going to use that part that's bent like an accordion because it's flexible and it'll give me the desired curve I'm going to need to make it fit into the drain and face toward the wall. And I considered these pieces left over from another kit I had to be pipes, but I decided to just work with the straw. Now, dolls, you know I don't do a lot of measuring, and this is pretty much the extent of my measuring, just seeing how far it would need to go up to reach the portion of the sink and bend toward the wall. And I just trimmed off the extra piece. Now, the diameter of my straw is the perfect size to fit into the drain of the sink, but I have to figure a way to fit it in where it'll stay and it'll still look like plumbing. And that's why I painted those random pieces of nuts and bolts silver. So now that I've trimmed it, I'm literally playing around with the nut and bolt pieces to see which ones fit and give the look that I'm looking for. And I just dry fitted the bolt at the end just to see how it would look. And then I found another smaller piece, and I felt like it would look better if they were stacked together, like the small piece and then the bigger piece on top, facing the bottom of the drain, if that makes any sense, dolls. So I'm just holding it here, dolls, to see so you can see what I was thinking and how I was playing around. And then I found a more donut-shaped one, which is actually a bracelet spacer bead, and I'm going to use it for the piece of the pipe that I attached to the wall in the kitchen. Now here I'm flipping the sink upside down so you can actually see the hole under the sink where I'm actually going to attach the pipe. And I'm laying the bolt there so you can just see where the area is and how I was going to stack it. I originally thought to do the big part first and the second, smaller part second. And then I said, well, let me just try to make sure the straw came up as high as I needed to and that it would leave me room to actually put a finishing piece in the drain. And now I'm looking at the length that I need for the back of the sink. And yeah, here again, I didn't measure. I just trimmed it off where I felt like the back of the sink ended, which would give me a nice allowance to fit it against the wall. And here I was just dry fitting the little donut piece to make sure it fit properly. Now here I'm just letting you see the donut piece from another angle so you see what it looks like dry fitted. Now I used the Gorilla Gel Super Glue on this little donut piece to ensure these fragile pieces have a permanent bond. Now, dolls, always be careful of your fingers when you're using the super glue gel because it's unforgiving. I didn't have any tweezers or anything in my hand. I didn't get any on my hands, but I just always want to make you aware that you don't want to get that on your hands. Now here I'm dry fitting the pipe up in the sink to make sure that it will fit properly. And I'm adding those nuts and bolts to the bottom portion where it's going to fit under the sink. Now, I was having a little trouble making the bend stay like I wanted it to stay, so I twisted a tiny piece of aluminum foil to put inside of the pipe to make it adjust and stay in the shape that I wanted it, and to make sure that bolt stayed on the end in the position I needed it to stay. So I tucked a little piece of aluminum foil into the pipe, and the other part was up in the bolt area. And when that super glue dries, it will ensure those two bolts or nuts at the end of the pipe will stay in place. So here's my sink with my dishes. Now, dolls, you're probably asking yourself, why didn't she just move the dishes out of the sink while she was doing this major plumbing construction? I really can't explain it. I was in the middle of play and had an idea for the pipe, and I really didn't want to stop playing. It probably would have been safer to put the dishes away, but nothing got broken, dolls. But I will recommend that when you're doing your projects, to put your precious treasures away. Don't work on your items with your treasures and dishes in the way of your plumbing projects. Now that the pieces are dry, again, I dry fitted it before I decided to put my glue because I wanted to make sure that the spacing was correct. Now, dolls, when I added the pipe to the bottom of the sink, I used a very generous amount of the Gorilla wood glue, not the super gel glue. I needed this glue to be create kind of a glob effect under the drain because I needed to fill in the spaces, and I needed to be forgiving enough that if I needed to remove it, I would be able to pry it away. I'm not sure that I would have that option if I had used the Gorilla Gel glue. And it looked a little messy while it was drying, but it was fine, dolls. So I looked at the pipe from a couple different angles just to see how I liked the overall look. I like the color of the silver. I like the shape and the positioning of the nuts and bolts. And so now I'm turning my attention toward that drain because that doesn't look natural at all. Still not sure why I left all that silverware and that glass in the sink, but I'm just showing you here the pipe from a couple different angles. I was allowing it to dry, and then when it dried, I picked it up a couple different ways to turn it just to view it and see how it looked. I'm really pleased with that pipe overall. So let's look at the drain. So for the drain on the inside of the sink, I found a tiny blue jean rivet. It's funny how it was the perfect size for that drain. And so I just flipped it and laid the little pointed button part face down, and the inner portion was the perfect size. And I thought that looked very natural. Now my sink on the inside looks finished. So, dolls, as I say all the time, you can use almost anything to make miniatures. You just have to allow yourself to develop an eye so you can see things that other people don't see. People who can't see would have thrown that away. But in the eyes and mind of a miniaturist, you think to yourself, I might be able to use that. And so you keep it, and it turns out to be the perfect size for your dollhouse sink. Don't let anyone call your supplies trash. Now here I have a random bag of leftover pieces from several other projects, and I needed like a small ledge to be on the sink for me to put like a bar of soap or Brillo or even my dishwashing liquid on. And here I allowed little Gretchen to paint it silver. It was a really small project, so she didn't make a really big mess, but it was the perfect size for the sink. And here I am adding a towel rack that I had made previously because we do need somewhere to put the hand towels or dish towels for the dollhouse dishes. And I put it on with the Gorilla Gel Super Glue and wiped off the excess. I did take a moment here and just touch up the little paint right there in that corner. But overall, it looks really good. But this is just an example of how you can enhance your mass-produced pieces to make them genuinely and authentically yours. It was a lovely sink, but it needed the Gretchen touch. And I did exactly that. I aged the legs, add the drain, put the pipe under there, and now I'm going to begin to add my little accessories. See, I've got a nice little dirty bowl, and I just want it to look as though there's a sink full of dishes that to look like maybe the dolls had just cleared the tables from the first meal and they're preparing to wash dishes for the second meal. So I'm just pulling random pieces and dishes and things to lay in and around the sink to just give the look of clutter. This would be totally intolerable in my life-size house, but in the dollhouse, it looks adorable. So dolls, you can see now that I've gone into play mode and I'm just arranging things and putting things around. I'm just going to add that little towel there to look like the dish rag is hanging off the edge. Now, I didn't use my glue solution. I just added some of my fabric fusion to just hold the fabric in place on the edge, just to give it that kind of draped look like it's hanging there on the edge and on that little hook at the top of the sink. Now the little metallic tray is dry and I'm gluing it to the back of the sink and making sure it's parallel and looks nice and straight. And that's where I'm going to put my dishwashing liquid and the soap or bar soap. So that looks good. I'm really, really pleased with how that turned out as well. And I'm just holding it, looking at it from more than one angle, just to make sure things are in order. And here's my little bottle of ivory dishwashing liquid. That's perfect. And now it looks like a perfect mess in the sink. Dirty dishes from the previous meal. I love it. And I found a couple of little speckled pots from a Correspondence set that I had. And I think that looks cute there because it adds a different dimension of texture and color. Even though it's black, it has the little speckles and it's smoothed in contrast to the cast iron. Oh, there's I have another one. So these are the things you have to think about, dolls. You want to mix up the colors, mix up the pieces, push things around, make them look random. Now here I'm just looking at everything in the angles and thinking about how great it's going to look in the rooming house kitchen. And I did have another dish towel to hang right there on that rack. And that looks great. And you see how I mismatch the towels and the wash rags because I don't want everything to look matchy-matchy. I really hate that, dolls. And I added a little wax to the back of the drain. Wow, it's a good thing they don't have actual plumbing because I've made a whole clog. And here's the sink inside the rooming house kitchen. And I just sat it on the floor just so you dolls can see it from this angle. Oops, I didn't wax down that bucket. I'm definitely going to have to do that. So let's go ahead and push it into place and see what it really looks like. And I have the wax already on that end. And let me move this towel so you can really see. And I'm just going to adjust the pipe so it will fit against the wall. And I really didn't want to bend it too much more because I didn't want to break it or cause it to pop off. And there's my plunger. Yeah, I'm really tickled with this, dolls. And I like the way that it sticks right up to the wall, to the beadboard. So the length, even though I didn't measure, it worked out great. That's a messy sink. Oh my goodness, it looks a grand mess. Oh, I found another dish towel. I like this one better. It looks a little brighter and a little cheerier than that blue one. It's got little cherries on it. Now, dolls, I'm trying to move on from this area, but I realize I have this whole complete wall that's bare. And you dolls know I can't leave it that way. Now, if you dolls enjoyed this video today, let me know in the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe. And always look for me on Mondays and Wednesdays after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wow, I am really, really pleased with the way the rooming house kitchen is looking and how everything is turning out. And I'm so excited about all the plans I have for you dolls going forward on this channel. I want to say a special thank you to all my subscribers and even those who haven't subscribed, but you're watching. I appreciate you as well. So as I tell you dolls all the time, that creativity and your imagination blossom in the midst of play. And the more I play in here and look around, the more ideas I have. I'm so excited about all the things that I have to share with you. Now that we've completed these items, we can move on to the other pieces that we have left on the craft table. We have the ice box, the pantry cabinet. We also have 2 tables that we need to set up. So there's quite a bit more to do in order to completely finish outfitting the kitchen and the pantry. So definitely stay tuned so you don't miss the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.